German troops crossed the Soviet border in the early hours of 22nd June 1941. Here you can see exactly that point. And Stalin refused to believe what was happening. He thought that it was a provocation. He thought that Hitler did not know anything about it, and it was the initiative of his military. He absolutely did not believe that the war started. The truth had to be faced only when Molotov met the German ambassador to Moscow, von Schulenburg. Only 4 hours after the beginning of the war, the order to destroy the enemy was issued. Molotov signed the order. Stalin refused to do it. He sent his emissaries to the front, but he refused to head the General Command headquarters, which were organized right at the beginning. There are some documents which contain evidence that Stalin attempted to negotiate with Hitler through third parties. He offered to cede some Western territories in exchange for truce. Nothing came out of it. It was Molotov who announced the beginning of the war, not Stalin. Here are Moscovites listening to Molotov's speech announcing the beginning of the war. The center did not have any reliable information on the scale of the catastrophe. Yet some evacuation was ordered right from the beginning. Precious metals, germs, currency reserves, archives of top government offices, the archives of the Central Committee and Lenin's sarcophagus all went to the east. Stalin was in distress. On 30th and 31st June, he was not seen and could not be reached. All government business stopped because it was organized around him. Something had to be done. So Molotov, Malenkov, Beria, and Voroshilov, Stalin's closest associates, came up with a plan. They came to Stalin together to avoid his wrath and offered him to create the State Defense Committee with Stalin himself at the head. He accepted everything. He accepted even Molotov as second in command, despite the fact that before the war, Molotov was in disgrace. This is the announcement of the creation of the State Defense Committee in 1941. This was the most important initiative coming not from Stalin in more than a decade. It signified the shift in the nature of Stalin's dictatorship. Stalin understood that the country was in mortal danger, in crisis, and that he needed to work together with his colleagues. He also accepted that, at least for the time being, his colleagues would be more active and independent. The government had to work as a collective. It did not mean that Stalin somehow was not in control. Of course he was. But he accepted that other opinions mattered. On 3rd July 1941, Stalin spoke to the people for the first time. He was unusually emotional. He addressed the Soviet population as brothers and sisters. He called on the Soviet people to turn the war into people's war. But he exaggerated German losses, and he said that the war would soon end. The Soviets reacted to this speech with enthusiasm, of course. Here they read about it in the newspapers, and here they listen to Stalin's speech. In the first 6 months of the war, the disastrous defeats were suffered by the Soviet army. 4.5 million dead, wounded, captured. Did Stalin know all of that? Communication was ineffective. Stalin was connected with the fronts only by telegraph and his personal emissaries. Both were unreliable and not fast enough. Yet he tried to micromanage the fronts, even down to platoon levels. He did not recognize the need for tactical retreats. He demanded that every point be defended. He demanded a counterattack all the time. This cost the Soviet Union millions of lives. The war, as the Germans started it, was the war of encirclements, and Stalin played right into it.